it comes and it goes, but it sounds like it's staying. First of all, welcome to this great event. I know all of you sitting here should be studying at the moment, but I think this is probably like the most legitimate study break you can ever have, to be in the presence of Dr. Athol Fugard and to be here today, so I don't think we have to be worrying. This is a very nice study break. I'm just going to introduce Dr. Gregory Reeks, or to us he's just Greg, to introduce Dr. Athol Fugard. I had to write down Greg's new status at this university. Now, most of you sitting here probably know Greg. If you haven't seen him at the House Committee training camp, you probably saw him, walking around at campus or sitting in the blaukamer. His new home. But Greg has had an immense role at this university. He's actually been a part, you can pick me up with this. He's actually been involved at the university for the past 6 years. His previous employers have been Stanford University, where he was dean, as well as Dartmouth University. He worked for the White House, for President Bill Clinton. He worked for Oprah. And now he's working for Stellenbosch University, so I think you're working up in the ranks. Greg, thank you for everything you've done for us at this university. His new name here is Senior Fellow for Multicultural Education and Training, and I believe everyone sitting here that has only been in a second in your presence considered you to be a mentor, and I would hope personally I can also call you my friend. So thank you for everything you've done, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. What Anina said in terms of a legitimate study break, definitely is. It definitely is. I'd like to thank all of you for coming. It was very, very short notice. I wanted to say something quickly, though, about why it was a short notice and also what's happened. Some of you guys on the real know, you just kind of know everything. You hear all the rumors and stuff. It's true that Dr. Fugard has been here on the campus for the last couple months. And he's been at Steers, and he purposely, he's been kind of hid from the world. Steers is an amazing place, and it allows giants, clearly giants on our planet, to come to a wonderful university like Stellenbosch, which is world-class. I'm always saying that about this place because it is, and bring people back from that world here to work on special projects, away from the media, away from the world, away from people, where they can really get their meals prepared for them, be in a beautiful, beautiful environment. I hadn't seen him since 1985, and the first time I saw him, he was actually walking in the garden at Steers, just kind of walking around. And I just kind of stood there and kind of remembered and flashed back all those years. But it's such a beautiful setting for him to be, which I'm sure he'll share with you. But his ability to work on projects, and typical Dr. Fugard is that he hasn't retired in any way. He's working on new projects, which he'll share with us, that are going to be opening up in London and New York. And so it's just very exciting. A little bit about him is that coming from a small town in PE, in South Africa, since becoming South Africa's greatest living playwright. During apartheid, Fugard became involved with the Superint players, who included the renowned actor John Kani. Using the Breckland techniques, they toured townships performing political pieces such as The Island and Sizwe Banzi is Dead. Clashing heads with the authorities of the day caused Fugard to lose his passport for 4 years. Fugard used his plays as a platform to protest the injustices he saw around him every day. His plays, while influenced heavily by the politics of the day, also explore essential themes and experiences that are part of the human condition. Because of these themes, his plays have resonated with an international audience. His semi-autobiographical work, Master Harold and the Boys, has been made into a film twice, most recently starring Freddie Highmore. Writer of the Academy Award-winning Tootsie, he has an honorary degrees from universities around the world, including Wittenberg, Princeton, and Yale. That's kind of a little bit of a long, long bio we could share. The greatest thing that Anina said in introducing me was that I hope she can call me friend. And that is for sure, and you can call me friend, and I'm pleased to call you friend. And that's really what I think about Athol, and all his degrees and all his work and everything is friend. And when I met him, it was 1985, it was about 6 degrees in New Hampshire at Dartmouth College. There was about 3.5 feet of snow on the ground, and Athol was in the United States, and he came to Dartmouth on a request from a mentor of mine from graduate school at MIT, a guy named Mel King, who was a dear friend of Athol's and a real activist in the Boston area in the American Civil Rights period. And he convinced Athol to come up and risk his freedom, to come to Dartmouth where there was a demonstration going on of students. Students had created and erected some shacks on the middle of the green. And if any of you have been to the States or know anything about New England, the most sacred part of the university campus is the green. It's usually a beautiful knoll of grass. Those of you that have been at Oxford in England, I've probably seen that, what it is at Oxford and Cambridge. There's always these really special greens. And so what happened is the students decided to erect these shacks to replicate and show the conditions, the living conditions under apartheid in South Africa. What was going on in the States at the time is many South Africans, white, black, colored, Indian, everyone, that was against apartheid had come to the United States and asked the student population to mobilize to get the corporate interest that the university were invested in to pull out of South Africa as a way of breaking the economic back of apartheid. Fugard, passport had been pulled, and he was told not to speak in any way against South Africa, the government, in any way whatsoever. And for him to risk coming to Dartmouth and to inspire the students in that cold, because they were living outside, sleeping in these shacks, demonstrating their commitment to South Africa becoming free. That was what the state was. But he came up and went out and met the students, just as he did earlier today when he walked in the SRC office completely unannounced, because I wanted to catch you guys if you're really doing any work. And but anyway, that he met with the students, and it was a special afternoon, because soon after he was there, the campus was raided by the police in America to deport international students that had violated their visas by being involved in this protest at Dartmouth. And so a number of people were arrested that day, and it was a really tough day in New England, which got on the front pages of all the American newspapers. So Athol was clearly exposed. The South African government was tracking news media all around the world in terms of South African citizens in any way speaking against the government. So I was completely inspired by this guy, seeing him put his life, in that kind of a situation. Then when I got to Stellenbosch, this last time when I came back in October, and I kind of heard on the drums that Athol was here, I just couldn't believe it. I said, no way. I said, there's not a second Dr. Athol Fugard, that's for sure. They said, no, he's actually at a place called Steers, and I said, so then I started walking around the campus saying to people, why isn't he speaking out? Why don't we have him? Why isn't the university celebrating him and doing all this? And every student on this campus should meet him. And then I found out that he was really somewhat sequestered and just here to rest and to work on his projects. But anyway, I couldn't help myself, and I asked Nadine Moody to look into it, and Nadine knows everybody, and until I could find out a way, and we ended up going. My nephew Timothy, that's here, who lives here in South Africa, and Nadine and I went and had the best lunch on the planet, the best food on this campus in this town is upstairs, I promise you. And I went over and saw Athol, and we just had a special time. We had a really special time. And the last thing I want to say about them is like the great ones. I've met some great ones in my life, and they're really regular. They're the easiest folks, the great ones. And when we went to pick him up, it wasn't like inside where we had to get announced or anything. They're here for you, Dr. Fugard. There was none of that. We drove along the road. Timothy was driving, and we saw this guy in some cool vest, kind of shirt, and kind of hanging out. He was just kind of kicking stones on the side of the road, just chilling, And I turned to Timothy and I said, Timothy, that's him right there. So he was excited, obviously, because he was waiting for us out on the road. And with that, I introduce you to Athol Fugard.
No, that's okay. It's long enough. I don't know that I really need this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Right at the back? Okay, I'm going to put this down. I'm going to give it to you, Greg. Okay? Yeah, so, well, let me start off by saying what I said to the SRC. It gave me a great opportunity when we met up to come here. The first thing he led me to was the offices where you're president of the SRC. Are you president?
Yes, chairperson, president.
Chairperson, president, whatever, yeah. And there was the couple of the others of the SRC. And I can remember just saying to them, because it's what you must know about South Africa is that, you know, the majority of white people in that country supported apartheid. But there were the few who tried to do something about it in opposition. And the youth of South Africa, the student representative councils and the student bodies at some of the major universities in this country were very, very influential. In fact, a number of SRC presidents, so chairpersons, who landed up in serious trouble with the South African government because of their active protest against what was happening. You know, you just look at your history books and you'll read about it. And the first thing I was able to say to the SRC here is that, you know, your generation has the future of this country in its hands. You, all of you have a responsibility not only to yourselves and your career, whatever that is going to be, and you've obviously got to discharge that responsibility. But there's a bigger one, an overriding one, that must involve your gratitude and love for the country of your birth. And in the years that lie ahead, at the moment, you know, it's a very difficult situation in this country. It can go, the ball could bounce one of either way, you know. So just be prepared, keep your eyes and ears open, understand the world in which you are living, and in which you as an individual human being, don't ever say to yourself, oh, I'm only just one person, I couldn't have any effect on anything. That's not the way it works. That is not the way it works. There was a man once with 12 followers who changed the world completely. So please, bear that in mind. That's the first thing I want to say to you. Now, what I would like to do with this afternoon and this occasion, which is important to me, it's very important. I wouldn't have come out of that well, Steers, he's described it very accurately. The food is very good. And there is a lovely garden, and I love walking in gardens. But meeting all of you and having a chance to share with you, I've got nothing to teach you, but I've got had experiences, and that I'll share with you. But I need you to help me do that. So what I would like to do is just say that if you've got a question to ask me, I can go on talking until I get the first question, but it would be nice if there was a question in somebody's mind, on their lips, about any aspect of the life I've lived. Now, let me just give you some sense of my identity. I am, first and foremost, a South African. At a recent conference to the English Academy of South Africa, I described myself as a South African bastard, meaning half Afrikaans, half English. So that's, to start with, that's my one level of my reality. I'm a writer. That's another level of my reality. I work in theatre, and I've worked in theatre all my life. I've made a few films, but I'm not basically interested in them. I'm a man of theatre, of the theatre. And then finally, I am a South African. One of the proudest things I can say about myself. And when I see all of you, I am just reinforced. That pride is just reinforced. Because I know there is a hell of a lot of decency in this room at this moment. And it's not in me, it's in you. Does anybody want to ask a question? No questions? Are we going to go home now?
I've got a question.
Yes, you've got a question.
Yes.
Good.
Why did you choose theatre as platform?
The man's name was Koos. And I said to Koos one day, well, actually when I first met him, where did you get this little dog? And he said, no, you got it wrong. The little dog got me. Yeah, I didn't choose him, he chose me. Now, the reason I tell you that is that I didn't choose theatre, theatre chose me. I have a sense that, you know, what's happening here this afternoon? What's happening here this afternoon? With Greg talking to you, making you laugh, giving you, relaxing you, challenging you. That's theatre. This is theatre, where one or two or three characters stand somewhere apart and deal with you. And that's an incredibly powerful, you know, you can't talk back to Robert Redford in a movie. You can't tell him to shut up, you can't tell him you disagree with him, you can't do anything when you're sitting in a movie house. It's going to happen, it's just a reel, it's just going to go on spinning, whether you're there or whether you're not. You know, that film will carry on even if every seat in the movie house is empty. But in theatre, the audience is all important. And it's a different form of, it's a kind of a political meeting, but it's a different kind. It's not a question of delivering a political message or anything like that, because the best theatre works when you don't know you're getting a message at all. When what is being touched is not just your head, but your heart as well. And theatre does that. What was the last play you saw?
I'm trying to think. I've seen a lot now. Romeo and Juliet.
And did that affect you?
Yes, but that was a different effect.
And that was what?
It's a different effect than what I've...
Yes, no, don't worry about that. Just theatre is basically there to do two things, and it's got to do the two things simultaneously. I can't enjoy myself watching a play if it doesn't excite my head and affect my heart. If just one of them are involved, it's less than what I had hoped for. So, Romeo and Juliet's a damn good play to start with, because firstly, you've got a clash between two families in the beginning, and it's all about that. It's about the intolerance of one group to another group, and stupid, irrational, mistrust, distrust, and what have you. So, it's a good play. That's a good play. That's a political play. Make no mistake about it. And that is how theatre works. And that is what fascinated me, the fact that you can say so much to individual people and individual, members of the audience without actually sounding as if you're writing a speech or delivering a soapbox oration on a street corner. I mean, any of you seen Sizwe Bonzi is Dead? Right. What was your reaction to it?
I love the immediacy of it.
That's a very good word. Thank you. Did it give you a few laughs?
Yes.
No, exactly.
Absolutely.
That's how it worked on you, wasn't it?
Yes.
That's right. Until you come to the crunch issue, is a man prepared to jettison his identity in order to stay alive? To have that dreaded stamp in the pass book which governed the lives of every person of colour in South Africa? Not so? I'm asking you. Isn't that true? Didn't the pass book, the Dom book, wasn't it a hated symbol of apartheid? Wasn't that what was burnt at Sharpeville? Huh? And that's what the play's about. But you've just heard somebody talking about its immediacy, it made a laugh, and it is those two actors. We're inclined to single out John Carney, but believe me, he was matched by his buddy, Winston Chawner. And the two of them, they did it. They did it. So, okay. Anybody else seen Sizwe Bonzi is Dead? Yeah, you got a question?
No, I want to ask
Yes, you did. You held up your hand.
Yes, I did, but I want to ask another question.
No, ask it.
All right, no, I want to know. One of my favorite plays from you is Bushman and Lena. And I want to ask what inspired you to write it. And
Bushman and Lena.
Yes, and if it's in any way based on Native
Okay, I like that question too. Bushman and Lena. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I mean, if you had told me when I sat down to tell the story about two homeless bait diggers up to their ankles, and they're, you know, in the Swartkorps mud flats, both of them, you know, destitute. All they've got in life is each other, and they hate each other, or seem to hate each other. I would have said, you're going to tell me that one day I'm going to be in Stellenbosch and a young lady is going to tell me that you've read it, you like it, and she likes it. You know, when I was writing that play, I said to myself time and time again, you're out of your flipping mind. Nobody is going to want to see this damn thing. Who is going to care for these two rags of humanity that walk around fighting each other, covered with the bruises they've inflicted on each other? But, all right, but that doesn't answer your question. I'm just telling you that. Why did I write it? I've just had an interview with a young lady who runs the breakfast show. Amy, is that the name? Have I got it right? Amy. A very, very good interview. Smart, sharp, did her homework, great. And one of the questions she asks me is related to, how do you write? What do you do? What do you use when you write? Why do you write? And I had to use a word that is probably one of the most complex words in the English language. It is also one of the most abused words in the English language. Can anybody guess what that word is? What? You're right. How did you know that? You're too young to know that. That's right. Love. Love. That strange gift we have from the gods, if you'd like it, to be able to reach out and want to touch and want to somehow or the other possess or bring into your life or give back from your life another human being. Every play that I have written, and they tell me now that there's something like 30 of them, I don't know, I don't count them, I just write them. And every one of those plays, the only energy I have ever used was love. And you know, you can go through life just using that energy. I know that once somebody asked me, when you walk into your little room where you write every day, how do you prepare yourself? And I said, well, the first thing I try to do if I know I'm going to be writing, and this is true without exception to this very day as I sat writing this morning, the first thing I try to leave at the door, you know the way you leave muddy shoes before you walk into a house? I've got a daughter and I've got a grandson, and I've been away from them for the time I've been here at Steers, and I want some time with them now, and my dog. I've got to be with my dog. And then I'm going to go to New York to direct a play. My very first play I wrote, in the sense that it's the first play in which I recognize my own voice. There are a couple of plays before it, but they were, as is necessary, imitative works. You know, you imitate the masters. It's one way of learning a craft. But the play in which I wasn't imitating anybody, I was just being myself, just using my own voice, telling a story which I knew only I could tell, in a way that only I could tell it, was a play called The Blood Knot. And The Blood Knot is about, among other things, because it's a very complex play, and among other things it's about, there's an impulse in love which makes you want to wrap up what you love in cotton wool and protect it and put it in the drawer so that it doesn't get broken, and just protect it. That's dangerous. That's taking love too far. You mustn't try to make the thing that you love safe in that way. You are not God. You understand? You've got to allow it its freedom. You've got to allow it the right and its endowed privilege to be what it is. You see, there are two impulses, and love is complex. But you're right in people are living there. That complexity is stated. Okay?
What I wanted to ask is, it seems to me that in South Africa, or maybe it's general, what is lacking is a kind of language of eroticism that manages...
A language of?
Eroticism. That,
of eroticism.
yes, that would manage to restore the energy of passion through the very words that are used. So that...
You say we're lacking in it?
Yes. So that passion is not only written about, but that the words actually resuscitate what was lived.
No, now I understand what you're talking about. It's, it's you know, it's that's a fascinating issue. Is what sort of energy is charged into a word? What sort of impulse does it carry? And I won't go into details because that would be it wouldn't be in good taste on my side to talk to you frankly as I could about, for example, a letter I received today, but in which every single word, every single sentence, every punctuation mark vibrated with that sort of erotic passion that you were talking about.
And can one have that in the theatre?
Beg your pardon?
Can one have that in the theatre?
Can one have that in the theatre?
Yes. Why don't we have more of that?
Because in this country, you must understand the great stricture of apartheid was don't love too much. I mean, apartheid was a lesson in unloving. Those years taught people, or tried to teach people, but you see, you can't do it in the outer final analysis. Eventually, like the Arab Spring, the dictator ends up dead. You know what I mean? And in South Africa, the attempt was made. I know because I grew up in that country. I know how the gossip on the playground tried to make me think in a certain way about people of color in the country, how to think about Jews in a certain way. You know, you've got to understand how incredibly complex and powerful the apartheid government, the party system of apartheid was. It really tried to mold people into a shape that white is superior, brown second class, black third class. That was the basic structure. And your heart was meant to beat in rhythm to that evil separation of human beings by virtue of something they had no control over, which was the color of their skin. So this was a country, and we are still struggling with it. Make no mistake, watch your newspapers, read your newspapers carefully at the moment, and you'll see that it's actually a debate is still going on about, can we really love freely and innocently in this country? You know, you're part of a generation that, you're a post-apartheid generation. And incredible, oh sorry, this is wrong. That's my oldest friend. He pulled up the curtain on my very first play, and now he's just, anyway. So that is what the society was doing. I mean, I know, for example, with absolute certainty, and it's a terrible thing to have to say, having lived through all that attempt to doctrinate me, that as I stand here and talk to you, I'm a mutilated human being. Damage was done to me. And unfortunately, I will go to my grave a damaged human being. Because prejudice is so insidious, so dangerous, that if you let it take, in the smallest way, take root in your heart, you're in big trouble. Okay? Yes, love.